In this video, we'll see how to integrate our application using the APIs provided by Genexus. The functionalities that we'll develop will allow us to share content using different applications, and will also make it possible to search for restaurants at a certain distance from our location. And lastly, we'll see how to integrate our SD application with a web application using deep linking. Let's see how to do all this in Genexus. First, we'll work over the Work With Devices session object. In the view, we'll add a button to the application bar. We enter a name for the event, Share. We'll define the event. What we want to share is the title and description of the session. This end, we're going to use the Share API. This API has two methods, one to share text and another one to share images. It's very simple to use, so we type share.text. This method receives three parameters: the text, a URL, which is optional, and a title. As text, we'll share the description of the session description. In the URL, we don't enter anything. And in the title, we'll enter the session's title, session name. Now we'll add another button to share information over Twitter. As event name, we enter tweet. We go to the event. In this case, we want to start the tweet with the session's name, and also add a hashtag Genexus at the end. We'll use the Twitter API and the tweet method, which only receives a parameter with the text we want. So we type twitter.tweet, and then the text we want, session name, and at the end, add a Genexus hashtag. Okay. Lastly, we'll also make it possible to add a session to the user's schedule. To do so, we add a last button called Schedule. In the event, we'll use the Calendar API and the Schedule method. Let's see this API. This API receives several parameters. So we type calendar.schedule. In the title, we enter session name. In start date, we use session initial date. In end date, we use session final date. For start time, we enter session initial time. And for end time, we enter session end time. And lastly, we can indicate the place. And here we'll use the room name. Okay, let's run our app. We open the emulator. We go to Sessions. We'll open the first session and select Share. Note that the icon was automatically changed by Genexus. Here we can share text in any of the apps that handle this type of content. There's a tweet option. In this case, the dialog allows you to select if you want to send a direct message or simply write a tweet. We select the latter option, and a tweet is opened with the information we entered. We'll go back and delete it. Lastly, let's see the option to add the session to the schedule. The default app is opened, and the event is created with the initialized data. So, let's return to Genexus. Now we'll change the list of restaurants. What we'll do is add an option so that it shows the map with the restaurants, but only the closest to me. Let's say within 400 meters. To do so, we'll use a copy of Restaurants Map. We've already created a copy of this panel and called it Restaurants Near Me. This panel doesn't receive parameters because we won't need them. Also, in the layout, we've added a button Near Me to call it. Let's see the panel Restaurants Near Me. In the Client Start event, we'll capture the current location of the device. We open the Client Start event, and we'll use the Geolocation API with a getMyLocation method, which returns a structured data type. We've already created myLocation, the variable based on this type. So we type geolocation.getMyLocation. Here, several parameters are received. We leave all of them with 0 value. We have precision, timeout, and a flag. Here is my location of geolocation type. Let's also save the location in a string, in other words, the latitude and longitude values. In the string, myLocation.location.toString to store this value. Since we have more than one line, we'll type the block composite endComposite. Now, in the load event, we'll use this geolocation API again. But this time, we'll use the getDistance method, which returns a distance in a numeric value. So we type geolocation.getDistance. This is a method that receives 2 strings with both locations. So we send myLocationStr and the restaurant's location, restaurant geolocation. We convert it to a string, and this will give us the distance between these 2 points measured in meters. Before loading, we'll ask if the distance is lower than 400. Then we assign the image, load it, and that'll be all. Now let's see it at runtime. We open the emulator, go to Restaurants, and select the Map option. First, to see all the restaurants available, we use All. There are 5 restaurants, and we go back. Now we select the option Near Me. There, we retrieve our location. Note that it's highlighted in blue. That's our location. Now we only have 3 nearby restaurants. Okay, that's all for now. We'll go back to our presentation. Now let's talk about deep linking. This feature allows us, using a deep link special API, to configure that certain links or URLs will be managed directly by an app and not by the web browser. It'll automatically check if that app exists on the device. If that's the case, it'll offer the possibility to open it. Otherwise, we can browse the website as usual. It's also possible that this link is not properly managed by the application, and in that case, it also takes us to the web browser. In this case, suppose we receive an email with a link about a presentation. Clicking on the link, instead of opening the web browser, should open the app and directly show the session's details. If we don't have the app installed, the link will be opened on the device browser. Let's see how we can implement this in our application. To be able to use this feature, we need several things. First, we'll need a web panel, which will receive the session ID attribute in a parameter. Next, we'll have to program a special event in the main object of our app, which will use the deep link API, and also the handle event. In addition to configuring the deep link base URL property with the web app URL. Lastly, we'll create an SD panel, which will be the same as the detail node of work with devices session. This panel also receives the session ID as parameter, and has the deep link name property, where the web panel name should be indicated. Let's go to Genexus. We've already programmed a web panel, View Session Deep Link. This web panel doesn't have any special properties. In the parameters, it receives session ID as we had said before, and the layout is the same as the detail node of Work with Devices session. In addition, we have an SD panel, a panel for smart devices, which also receives session ID as a parameter. The layout is exactly the same as the web panel, except here we enter in one of the properties, deep link name. The web panel name, View Session Deep Link. The prefix is automatically added when we select the object, prefix gx:. Okay. Also, we need to program the app's main object in the event day object. In the properties, we indicate the deep link base URL with the entire URL of the web app. This can be obtained from the model properties if we don't know it. In the events, we also need to program how to handle the link. To this end, we use deep link, the API we mentioned with the handle event. Let's look at this API. Note that it doesn't have any properties or methods. It only has an event that receives a URL and a flag that indicates if this URL has been handled or not. In the event, because it runs on the client side, we need to use the composite. First, we check if the URL starts with our URL, that is, with the app URL. Also, if the URL contains, in this case, View Session Deep Link, that's the web panel's name. Here we could have used case if there are several SD panels. Next, we'll parse the parameters to obtain the session ID. We need to set the variable isHandled to true, because otherwise it would take us to the browser and then go to View Session SD with the session ID. To see this at runtime, we'll open the emulator. We have an email with the link to session number 1. We click on the link, and note that we're offered to open the Event Day app. We'll use the option just once to be able to use it again. There it's loaded, and the panel View Session SD is opened to show session number 1 that was indicated in the parameter. We go back, and we go to the link again. Here we see what happens when we open it with the browser. We choose Chrome, and here the web panel containing the same information is opened, but now the web content is displayed. This is all for now about this topic.